Where does that come from for you? Like, did you just grow up and, you were born and as soon as you could figure it out, you're like, I'm just going to give to everybody I know? Or was it something that was ingrained into you? Like, where do you feel like that really took off for you?
Probably another great question, but more later in my life. I feel like I was growing up, my mother always probably wanted that and wanted, Frankie, my mom calls me Frankie. She calls me Frankie baby. So that all comes from her. But I think my mom wanted that from me. I think as I grew up and through my teens and earlier on in my life, I don't think that any of that came out. I think I was, and even part of my story is I felt like I was very selfish. I didn't give back. I did a lot of me stuff. And I, probably in, my mid 30s, I'm 43 now. So my mid 30s, I started to kind of look at things differently and appreciate stuff more and appreciate what people did for me and I started to get things in life where, I remember where I came from too. So then I was like, well, now I need to give back, don't forget where you came from type of mentality. So honestly, 10 years ago, it could have been I probably wouldn't have been on your show and we wouldn't have been talking because I was probably in a different mindset.
Welcome to Authentic Conversations with Ryan James Miller. Join Ryan as he speaks with top business leaders and influencers and hear how they've mastered the art of authenticity to achieve all that they dreamed of. As you hear from these leaders, seek not only to be inspired by their authenticity, but to strive for and master your own.
What up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the podcast. It's not called the podcast, but that just seems to be the regular way and easy way to open it up. That said, I'm really stoked today for a couple of reasons. One is because every so often I am introduced to connect to somebody that I just am immediately intrigued by and interested in. And so that's this guest today. But beyond that, he's somebody that I admire, that I've just been really, really excited to dig farther into kind of his life, his story. And it's so interesting because as you see him, there is so much more than meets the eye. And so I'm just really pumped because for the last 2 years, I've known Frank. Frank Mengert is the founder and creative visionary of EBM. We met online, LinkedIn, through some similar circles, met in person in Vegas just over 2 years ago now at a health insurance and employee benefits event. And from that point forward, I've just grown to more affectionate for him. And so, Frank, I'm pumped, man. Thanks so much for coming on.
Man, awesome. I'm more excited now than I was after that intro. So appreciate that. I'm really excited to be here.
Okay. So this has been a long time coming. I mean, obviously, we connected, I don't know, probably sometime late 2018 or maybe sometime in 2018. So, immediately there, I just started having some good conversation. We recorded some content together all the way back in Vegas, which you were super kind to be able to do. I feel like I have been chasing you down for about the last year, trying to get you back on here. But then I guess that just goes to show how busy you are. Mm-hmm. So while I say founder and creative visionary of EBM, which is an employee benefits consulting firm on the benefits administration side, and we can expand more into that, I know that's not all you do. So why don't you give everybody a kind of a brief rundown? And again, I should say too that, for circles that we run in together, so in employee benefits, everybody knows you, which is super cool. But there's a lot of people listening that have nothing to do with insurance. And so explaining some of what you do, I think, will be helpful to some people too.
Yeah. I'm so stoked to even be introduced to your audience and folks. Of course, that's great if you know me, and if you don't, by day and in my sort of career, I guess what I do to make money is I run a national employee benefits firm called EBM. Been doing that for a while. Love it. Started my 5th company this year, which is a real estate company, but EBM was my 4th. Been lots of fun, ups and downs. So that's that's, my kind of my main hustle right there. Yeah, I mean, I love life. I keep myself pretty busy because I'm a super active guy, and I just love what's next, and how can I keep things going and better myself. So yeah, family guy. I got an 8-year-old daughter, married to my wife Danielle, and we've been married now for 13 years this month. So exciting times there. And yeah, live in Connecticut. We're from Connecticut, originally from Hollywood, Florida. And just I'm telling you, every day I say this, I wake up inspired to be a better version of myself. So to hear you say, that you met me and things, 2 years, it seems like a while ago when we recorded in Vegas, and a lot's happened since then. So definitely exciting and really cool to get to do this.
So people can kind of, hear a little bit of the more than meets the eye, a part of my story. I think that, I'm just one judge of character in the midst of, millions and millions of people that run around this country. But I remember connecting with you online, and you are a good-looking, well put together dude. You're in really good shape. You always are wearing all these really cool t-shirts. East Coast dude, you come across very confident, and some people maybe, and I didn't necessarily feel this way, but could be either intimidated by or kind of put off by the fact that you are just like so well together, and you just speak very confidently, and wouldn't understand, I think, the genuineness and kindness behind who you are. And so the first time that I got to see that, and I've mentioned this before to you and in other kind of environments, but so everybody here can hear. So I was in Vegas to speak at an event, and Frank was speaking there as well. And I was getting ready to go speak, and Frank came up to me. And again, we had just been connected online, met in person for the first time that day. And he said, "Hey, are you recording your session? Because they're not recording your sessions." And I said, "No, I'm just, going to go up there and do it." And he goes, "Well, I brought a camera, and I'll set it up, and I'll record for you, and then I'll send it to you later." And so he's there to do his own gig. He's there to meet his own people, to serve his own clients. He's there with his equipment for himself. He's not like he's a professional videographer by trade. And yet he set it up, he captured, he recorded. It was just, Frank, to me, like, that was such a gesture of, again, just this genuineness and kindness that I don't think most people would assume of anybody, really, but definitely somebody like you that is just, again, so well put together. They could be just like, oh, he's kind of in his own world. And so I just really appreciate that in anybody, but that impacted me in ways that not many people have, that I've met online and then later met in person. So I wanted you to know that publicly, but I also wanted other people to hear that, because again, like, social media, it's too easy to make judgment based upon what we see or even hear, and we don't take time to get to know kind of what's below the surface. So that was something that I wanted to share. And it was actually funny. I was watching, I know you're in the midst of doing the 10 tips for 10 days on LinkedIn right now. And today I saw your video. It may have been yesterday's or this morning's, but you said something to the effect of, "I still make mistakes. I don't have it all together." And so again, like, you are not just pandering to the crowd when you say that stuff. So I appreciate that about you. And I am really interested to know, like, do you feel that tension yourself, where maybe some people make an assumption about you because you're successful, or because the way you look, or you're buff and you wear t-shirts? Like, I don't know, like, do you feel that from people from time to time?
Yeah, and it's really cool that you bring this up, because I think perception is something that is, no matter where it is, whether it's me being a victim of perception, or me perceiving something on someone else. I think we see a lot of what we want to see, or what's shared, or whatever it is. We look at someone, and for example, for me, I wear, when we go to events, I usually don't have a suit and a tie on. I've got a t-shirt on, and I might wear some flashy sneakers or something, but that's me. I'm not doing it because I'm trying to draw attention. That's the type of person that I am. And I that's just how I dress. So, but if someone sees me, they may think like, oh, whatever they may think. And I always say, people are going to love me or they're going to hate me. I think if people give me a chance, they'll love me, because what you said is really true. Like I want to be able to help when I can. I don't think I'm a jerk. Maybe I could be a jerk sometimes, but I think I'm a really giving person. What you talked about with the video thing, funny piece of that is that I recorded your session, and my battery died and I couldn't record my own session. But I mean, it's okay. I wasn't mad. I was like, oh, I should have never did Ryan's. I should have never did that. Like, it didn't even occur to me. I was just like, no big deal, whatever. People get a couple pictures, whatever. And when I did that for you, it wasn't like I was, yeah, I'm glad that you said that, because I did it because I did it. No other reason at all. And yeah, we were, basically strangers. But I felt like it was a good thing to do. And I would have wanted somebody to do that for me. So really glad you brought it up. But yeah, that's, I think we can all give a little more, and give too, without wanting something in return, I think is very, something that we can all learn from. So yeah, so the perception thing, I feel bad for people who make a judgment on someone based on how they look or something like that. You see someone for 3 seconds and you already have assumed something or formed an opinion. And even on videos, someone may watch one of my videos and come to an opinion about me and who I am. And you don't even know me. Even though I am the person that I am on the video, there's different messaging that I do. And if anyone who's been following me for a long time and watching my content would, I think, have a better opinion of me than someone who just saw a 30-second clip of me.
Yeah. Okay. So where do you feel like, or do you know, I mean, where does that come from for you? Like, did you just grow up and, you were born and as soon as you could figure it out, you're like, I'm just going to give to everybody I know? Or was it something that was ingrained into you? Like, where do you feel like that really took off for you?
Probably and another great question, but more later in my life. I feel like I was growing up, my mother always probably wanted that and wanted, Frankie, my mom calls me Frankie. She calls me Frankie baby. So that all comes from her. But I think my mom wanted that from me. I think as I grew up and through my teens and earlier on in my life, I don't think that any of that came out. I think I was, and even part of my story is I felt like I was very selfish. I didn't give back. I did a lot of me stuff. And I, probably in, my mid 30s, I'm 43 now. So my mid 30s, I started to kind of look at things differently and appreciate stuff more and appreciate what people did for me and I started to get things in life where, I remember where I came from too. So then I was like, well, now I need to give back, don't forget where you came from type of mentality. So honestly, 10 years ago, it could have been I probably wouldn't have been on your show and we wouldn't have been talking because I was probably in a different mindset.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that seems to be a lot of people's story. There's definitely those outliers that they've been that way their whole life. But I do feel like it's either somebody coming to an understanding of who they are and recognizing they're not happy with that person. Like today you're wearing a shirt that says "Be you, you matter." It's like this idea of, I need to figure out who I am. It's a message I preach all the time. But until we really understand who we are, all we're doing is creating these images that we think, other people want to see, or maybe it's, the negative sides of us that are coming out. And that's not who we're proud to be. So I just feel like there's always things that are influencing us along the way. And then all of a sudden we come to this place. So so you're in 5 businesses today, which is crazy to think about. But when and what was the first one that you got going? Besides like the popsicle stand on the corner.
Yeah. So my first real business, not the young side hustles, which I definitely was into, but I was working for, I put myself through school, went to and worked at night, 11 o'clock to 7 in the morning. I used to work at a paper mill. Went to school 8:30 to around 4 o'clock. Slept for a little bit, rinse and repeat. And they helped put me through school. They helped pay. I got academic scholarships, and then I got some money from them. So it was a job that it wasn't the best job, but I appreciated the job because it gave me an opportunity to go to school because I would have never had that opportunity. And I thought that, okay, they've helped put me through school. There's like a thing of 5, you have to stay with us for 5 years, or you have to pay the money back. So I was like, they're not going to let me go. So I can work my way up to the front, and I worked in the back. We made photographic paper. And I figured I'd go work in the front office with all the suit and tie people. And one day I went into work, and I got laid off out of the blue. I just got laid off, kind of blindsided, and was sent home with 2 weeks severance and no prospects at all. I had a degree in computer science. That's my degree, is computer science. So at the time I was kind of dabbling with fixing computers and doing some stuff, but really, wasn't making money. I was doing it for fun and trying to, hone my craft. And what that kind of expedited things. I think I made a decision where I was like, do I go try to find another job, or do I want to try to see if I can do this on my own and create my own business and turn, this little side hustle I had going to a main hustle? And I made the risk. I was like, I'm gonna give it a shot. Why not? And it was a lot harder than I thought. I probably, I started this company, and it was called Praetorian. I called the first company, the name was called Praetorian Technologies, which was probably, I was into the medieval Praetor Guard, all this stuff. And I thought it was cool, but no one knew what the heck it was. So for about 6 months, after explaining to people what I tried to do, then I would try to have them, purchase my services, my IT services. And it took so long. And then I made a name change, and I called it IT Solutions. Now you got Information Technology Solutions. People understood what that meant right away, logo, all this stuff. And then probably another 6 months went by where it was a struggle. I'd say the first 13, 14 months, made a little bit of money, but not enough for our, I was like, kind of like, I might need to give this up. And then around that mark, maybe after my first year into my second year, I landed my first big client, and a recurring revenue client. It was just like, yes, this is great. And then things started to slowly happen after that. And you get some clients and you get some referrals and you start doing a great job. And so that was my first company. In the middle of that, I started a second company, Connecticut and Security and Surveillance. So I started a security and surveillance company that did alarms, TVs, access control, and took off pretty well. We landed some big clients, and one major client that I had, we were doing stuff all up and down the East Coast for daycare centers, and they basically, I was, just, I guess, naive, young. This was in early, in the 2000s, around 2005, 2006. I started my first company kind of out of a spare bedroom. And then this company here was basically doing the same thing. Didn't have any contracts in place with this firm. They took all my ideas. They took my vendors, they took my equipment. They took everything that I did in all these schools. They basically took it and fired me, and they were my biggest client. So that was that was a loser there. So it was a company that I learned a lot though. And then my third company was I wanted to do maintenance on commercial buildings. So commercial buildings, you figure you're like me now, I'm a business owner, but I own a commercial building, but you need someone who's going to come in like the all-in-one. Okay, we do your HVAC, we do your plumbing. So you got the one person to call, all the resources you need. So I thought it was a great idea because I knew a couple people that own businesses, and I figured buildings, and I figured it would be great to have this kind of concept. And it failed from the beginning. No one wanted it, and people didn't want to deal with having multiple contracts and paying, and it just didn't work out. Again, a failure. But I learned a lot because you need to have a need. You have to, clients need to want to buy what you have to sell if you're going to open up a business. And then EBM, which is still going strong now, which is my baby for sure, my most successful company by far. We're national and just really, just great team, great people I get to work with. And then, this year in the pandemic, I've always wanted to, I've opened up a commercial real estate holding company, bought my first commercial building, which was a massive investment, but a risk. And it's, we'll see how things go. I want to do more, but yeah, it's my fifth company, and I've had some wins, I've had some losses, but the big thing is I've learned a lot. I don't regret the decisions I've made. I've learned from them. I think I'll never make them again. That's for sure.
Yeah. Okay. So through all of that, like just in the kind of the business effort and endeavor that you've had along the way, what do you think you're most proud of? I mean, I know you said that like EBM is really successful. Obviously, I mean, the familiarity I have with the insurance space, everybody knows about you, or has some familiarity with, who you are. So like, that's an accomplishment. But for you yourself, like over the last, 5 companies, it sounds like about 15 years or so, what do you really take away as this is what I'm most proud of professionally?
I mean, from a professional standpoint, when I think of like when I look around and whether it was a winning company or a losing company, but where I'm at when you look at it from a professional standpoint, I feel accomplished that I've actually done something. I've done, there's a sign, I think, right here. It says, prove them wrong. I have that there because I've heard no so many times where people tell me you're not going to do that. Or you're never this. And even when I started EBM, people were hanging up on me. They're like, no, we don't want it. This is a dumb idea. It's a bad concept. So what I feel accomplished that I didn't listen to that. I didn't let the noise get into my head. And I just kept moving on and kind of stayed focused on what I know what I want to do. I know what I'm trying to achieve. And I feel like I've done pretty well. And if I think if I would have listened to a lot of people along the way, I probably wouldn't be standing here right now. So yeah, I feel like I'm most proud of the fact that I've made the bet on myself 100 times and I seem to be a winner.
Okay. So where does that confidence come from? Like, I'm going to make my decision. I'm going to stick to it. I know that's not ignorance, but like, where is that confidence coming from that causes you to see something, to go after it and to throw everything you can at it?
Yeah. And that's probably something that either I had something born with me or the way my mother was a big impact on me growing up. But I feel like it was either this gene that I got, or just the influence of my mother growing up. And since I was younger, I used to, you mentioned the, side hustles and stuff. I mean, I used to push the lawnmower around and knock on people's lawns and mow their lawns. I used to sell candy at school. And I just had this drive I want more. And it's always been in me. And I feel like I've never, even when I was younger, I've always kind of led my own path. There's people who will follow the herd. And that's okay. There's people who should be following the herd, but then there's people who will deviate and just want to do their own thing. And again, you're going to win, you're going to lose, but you make the decision. And I'm the guy who wants to make the decisions.
That's awesome. Okay. So now I have an interesting question to kind of flip. So I have observed you, particularly through Instagram. I see you're always sharing moments and memories with your daughter. And here you are, this strong, confident guy that has found success in life. You are demonstrating a significant level of kindness and generosity, and yet in the world around us today, and I'm kind of like saying this, I'm going to ask this question because being a fellow father to 2 girls, we now live in a society today that is literally just at war with itself, right? I mean, every way that we can undercut and destroy each other, whether it's through just social media and people hating on each other, though it's not all like that, or the political divide, the cultural divide, like it's chaos. So as you look at your daughter, who I know can just feel and see that you just love and value so much, what do you ultimately want for her?
I want her to be like I want her to be able to make the decisions like I make. Like I tell you, like, oh, okay, I've made my own decisions. I'm comfortable with them. I want her to have an environment where she's not afraid to be who she is, where she's not afraid to make decisions and fail. And she's going to learn from them as well. But in using her voice, a lot of times when I was younger, I don't think I was very vocal about stuff. I would not always, especially with my parents or just in school, kind of just I used to just, not speak up for myself. And I think now things are changing. I think it's important that that our kids have a voice. I feel like my daughter needs to be empowered to know when it's right, what's right, what's wrong. And if you see something that's wrong, you don't be afraid to open your mouth and say, no, that's not right. I don't stand for it. And I've been trying to work on that basically her entire life. But now as she's 8 years old, she's in 3rd grade, she's getting around other kids and it, there's other families and other parents that don't think the way we think. And I'm not saying our thinking is right, but their thinking is one way and our thinking is another way. And then the kids come to school and they're learning from their parents and whatever, it's a good habit, bad habit, but they clash. And then it's like, well, is my dad right? Or is her dad right? And it's kind of, she needs to make those decisions for herself. And that's what I want her to do. I want her to be able to weigh things out and know I need to make a decision on what's the right thing to do. Because I think as she gets older, another 8 years from now, she'll be 16 years old. It's going to look really crazy. It's going to look very different. And I want her to know that it's okay to open your mouth and it's okay to say no, and be empowered to say yes as well.
Yeah. Gosh, it's so good. Yeah, it's crazy. My oldest daughter's 18. And so we're talking about voting for the first time. Right. Yeah. And again, she's in, and we are, it's, everybody kind of knows who I am. We're a fairly conservative family and faith drives so much of, kind of how we make our decisions. And yet, she's also very much influenced by the world of TikTok and Instagram. Not really Instagram. It's not cool anymore, but so that's driving her. And so she's coming to me and she's, she says, I don't know how to to figure this all out, right? On one side, I see this, on the other side, I hear this. And so as a parent, it could be really easy for me to say, okay, well, let me tell you what we think and what we believe. And what I'm trying to do is to get her to come to the conclusions herself, not to my conclusions, but to the confidence that her conclusion is the right one for herself. And that is so hard, but also, and I'm sure that you can take away from this too, I'm learning so much again about, what it means to really think through every decision that we're making, because we're influencing them, we're influencing other people, and we're influencing ourselves,
No doubt. Yeah. And you're right. Yeah. At your daughter's age too, she's at a definitely pivotal moment now at 18, and there's some serious decisions that she has to make. And yeah, you want them to be hers, don't make it based on what mom and dad, what they would think, based on you're making decisions now that are going to impact you. And you're going to have to make the right choice. Great. If not, then you learn what you did. You learn from the mistake if you make one, and you move on. Yeah.
Yeah. No, for sure. Okay. So, you are showing up online a lot. You're definitely, and I know the algorithms play into the things that we're attracted to, but every day. Oh, by the way, I should ask. So you were, before I go into this, you were really active on Instagram, and all of a sudden one day your Instagram disappeared.
Oh man.
Right?
I know. Yeah.
What happened?
Well, it's a good, it's not a good thing. I'm really upset that it happened, but, it's just rebuilding, it's it's okay. Another thing that I went through, I was so upset. And I had an Instagram account. I don't know. I was probably one of the, earlier ones, but 8-9 years, I had an Instagram account, years of pictures. And when I first started using Instagram, most of it was memories and good times with the guys and family times and all these things. So I had a whole listing of pictures. It's just cool to scroll back and see memories. Like Facebook will show you some of those rewinds. And grew a pretty decent following. It was interacting with a lot of people. And one morning I tried to sign on and it said my account was restricted. And then I sent them a message and said, why? What did I do? Never got anything, because through so much research, you find people get dinged for doing stuff and they warn you, and you get soft bans and all these things. Nothing, never, nothing and ever. So they sent me an email right away, and it's like, oh, this was done by accident. Your account will be reactive. I'm like, all right, great. 24 hours go by, nothing. I send it again, same message. And then I find out okay, this is an automated reply. It must be some AI service scanning it. Lo and behold, I couldn't get a human being on Instagram. I tried reaching out to people that tried to reach out to Instagram for me, couldn't get nothing. So I was like, and a buddy of mine was like, well, just start a new one. And I'm like, God, I know it's such a pain in the butt, but I was like, whatever, either stay off Instagram or I start a new account. So yeah, I started one from scratch, late July. I think I started a new account, and I'm just, slowly rebuilding.
Good gosh. Okay. So that sucks, but that's a really good lesson that we'll talk about here in a couple of minutes. But okay, so that was there. You are investing a lot into LinkedIn's platform. Obviously that's where we got connected. And I know that it's been, I think only you said something like 2 years that you have just absolutely exploded on LinkedIn, and you're showing up every day very consistently. And so why, what was that belief for you that LinkedIn was the right place for you? And just share a little bit about, kind of what that journey's been like and why today you feel like it's still the right place for you, or one of the right places for you to be.
Yeah. So LinkedIn, like a lot of people, I had my LinkedIn account, I think I got to like 2011, somewhere around there, and just, showing up there and to, see what this was about. And I think I probably didn't log on over the next, 8-9 years, I probably logged on a couple of times to check it out. And then May 2018, I met Gary Vaynerchuk and I had the opportunity to go to his office to sit with him and pick his brain. And
that happened
with his team. So there's a thing called 4Ds. It's a program he has. And back in 2018, there was an opportunity where they did a couple giveaways to get to be a part of 4Ds. And I was one of those people. Now I think you have to pay like 15 grand to be part of 4Ds, but this was when it was like first started. So yeah, really cool opportunity. Got to meet with him, sit there, pick his brain. And I wasn't doing anything recording. I wasn't doing anything, but I just wanted to go there from a business perspective. What am I doing right? What can I be doing? How do I grow? And how do I get to, how do I continue to grow the company? And he told me, it was funny because he was like, you need to be on LinkedIn. He said, go all in on LinkedIn and make video. He's like, it'll change your life. And I was like, yeah, like, kind of like, okay, it's Gary's, sure. Yeah, but I was in my back of my head, I was like, I'm not make video. Like, who's going to listen to me? Who's going to watch me? And that was May 9th, 2018. And I didn't put out my first video until sometime in November. So I didn't, even though it was Gary Vee, at the time I was so invested in his content and everything. I didn't really believe it. I didn't buy it. So it took me, and if I would have done that, I would have gotten a little bit of earlier traction, but I waited so I put out my first video. So next month, somewhere around this time, I think it was first week in November, I put out my first video in 2018. Wow. So it's been almost 2 years.
And today, how do you view your approach to LinkedIn? Is it personal brand focused? Is it trying to eventually drive people to one specific area or another? Like, why are you showing up every single day? And you're investing a lot. It's not just a 3-minute video. It's all the time of recording and creating and producing, which I think you said you do that yourself. So what's kind of that approach?
Yes. I don't really, I've been asked so many times, what's my end game for LinkedIn? And so when I first started showing up there, a lot of the content I created was really around the insurance industry, which a lot of people, that when people, they go in and they start, if they're on LinkedIn, they start talking about their industry and things like that, or they want to sell something and they have this thing in mind. And I didn't really want to sell. I was just trying to share. So I would talk about a topic that was, like at the time, I think they were going to, Obamacare was going to be gone and all these things. It was kind of a hot topic. So it was whatever was going on, I would just create a piece of content with my thoughts, and people started to tune in and people started to interact. And it wasn't people just in the industry, but it was people outside too, who were just like, oh, wow, I didn't know that. Or I learned something today. And for me, it was like, I guess some weird shot of dopamine that I got. And I was like, people, this is cool. I can help. And that's really for the last 2 years. If you watch my content, anyone who's been watching my content for 2 years, I don't really even talk about what I do for a living most of the time. It's not like I'm like, hey, I'm the HR technology guy. You need to buy my stuff. I talk about stuff that really happens to me on a day-to-day basis, or as I'm running a business, or decisions that I've made, and more stuff that it's like, I think common with that resonates with a lot of people, instead of just trying to be niche and trying to zero in on my ideal target, which is okay. If you want to show up to LinkedIn and you want to look at it as an opportunity to grow and scale your business, you can do that on LinkedIn. For me, I'm very grateful. I have a successful business. So no matter what someone's version of success is, my business is successful. I don't need to sell to LinkedIn. So that was never in my mind, was like, well, I need to monetize this, or how do I monetize LinkedIn? People started to listen, and people started to DM me and say nice things and say I was helpful. And I'm just like, I can give. And that's sort of like what you talked about earlier, the giving thing. It was just like, I'll give more. What else can I give? How can I get one person? That's all that needs to tune in, is one person. So that's for me. I get that out of LinkedIn, is some really awesome people, the ability to share my story. And of course, great things have come out of it, speaking events, and, I've been like, being a guest on shows, just a show that's been delayed because of COVID, but I'm supposed to be on this TV show that they're doing, this kind of reality TV type thing. So cool stuff. And of course, people that I do business with in the industry, it's so often, random people too. It's the funniest thing. People are like, oh, I watch your videos all the time. And I'm like, they're not people that I recognize. It's, the people that are commenting and liking all the time aren't necessarily people that I'm doing business with. And when someone says, oh, I watch your video, I've been following your journey, I do this, I do that. And I'm just like, cool, this is great, because that's proof that the likes and the comments, necessarily, I call it the silent viewers. I feel like the people that aren't watching are most likely people that are going to buy from you. And LinkedIn's really helped me just build. You mentioned the brand. People know, like, and trust me. This is me, no matter what. I mean, if you meet me or you see my video. So I think people have that. They get to know me through the content, and then they talk to me on the phone, or they do business with me, or like, I can trust this guy. And that's what I want.
I think that, something you said about kind of the silent viewer, I think that's so helpful for people. And it's so hard for people to grasp, because they could say, well, you're getting a big following and you get a lot of engagement and you have the silent viewer. So that's why you keep doing it. But I think that people don't really understand how valuable those people are behind the scenes. I mean, just the other day, I was referred to, just happens to be in the insurance industry, a practice leader for a national benefits firm. And he was referred from one of his colleagues. And when he referred my name over to that guy goes, oh, I've been watching his videos for years. Yeah, I totally know him. I would love to be introduced to him. And it's so crazy to me, because on one hand, I'm thinking, well, why, if you loved it all that time, why didn't you just reach out or say something? But on the other hand, it's just creating all of this validation behind the scenes. So then when that opportunity arises, it's there. And so I think that more people need to believe in the fact that if you show up and are consistent, and people see you as genuine, and they get to know you and like you, that then when that opportunity arises, that will have played such a big part. All that said, do you fear something similar, whether it's cut off, shut down, this big change in the algorithm, which we've actually seen some pretty big ones, I think, over the last probably 6 months on LinkedIn. But do you fear the possibility of that happening? And maybe fear is not the best word, but is there a concern there? And then what are you thinking to protect against that from happening, should that happen?
Yeah, I mean, I've Facebook. I very rarely show up there. Instagram, after I was kind of a little upset with them when they shut my account down. So I show up a little bit, but now my content and stuff, I spend some time on there. But LinkedIn is where all my attention's at. So I mean, if LinkedIn made some changes or something where, if it was just went away tomorrow, I'd be I would miss LinkedIn. I would miss the people. I'd miss the interaction. I'd miss the ability to go on there to learn, but also to be able to share. So there would be a piece of that I really like. I think the changes that they're making, they're playing around with some things and seeing what works, what doesn't work. That's definitely known. A lot of times in my videos now, at the end, I'll tell people to go and hit the reaction button or drop a comment for the algorithm, because it does help now. I think comments are really important when people are for spreading stuff. And if I want more people to see, I need more people to comment. So all that stuff. Yeah, I think there's changes and we need to adapt. It's free. Every day we get to show up to the greatest networking event of our lives for no cost. And it's like, who am I to complain? If they make a change, I've got to learn how to adapt to that change. So as changes happen, I'm going to try to do what I can to pivot and make my adjustments. I mean, like I alluded to earlier, I think there's coaches and there's other people that built a business around LinkedIn. And if LinkedIn does some things to change that, what is their business going to look like if LinkedIn does that? So again, for me, if LinkedIn got shut off tomorrow, I'd miss it, that type of stuff. But business is going to go on. So it's not going to hurt me financially, emotionally. I would miss it. But yeah, so I just think it's up to me to learn to adapt and try. I'm always trying new things. I check my engagement, my stats, and all these things. I know, like my text posts, my image posts, my video posts, days of the week, things like that. And things, it's been moving. My profile views aren't as high as they used to be. I noticed the stats. I like data, but hey, I'm going to keep showing up. And the right people, I get awesome people that hit me up all the time. So the right people still see my content, which is great.
Yeah. And so, because you have such a good following, and I'm not trying to make this all about LinkedIn, but just really thinking about, so you've created this following that really appreciates and values you, what you say, your insight into business in general, and probably just approach to life. Have you considered trying to draw people off platform, building, text communities are really big now. There's a little bit there, back to traditional email, even print. By the way, like I got a print Amazon catalog the other day, like back to the Sears wish list days. Mm-hmm. Are you thinking about any other type of community build, because you have such a following that people would maybe go off on a regular basis to see you should some general free platform go away?
Yeah, those are things that I've actually talked to other people about, ways to take some of that attention and move it to somewhere else where the community piece is big. It's like people, you've got I've got 30,000 people following me on LinkedIn. And then if you start to peel back and see like who is really believes what I believe type mentality and wants, really that tribe, they're showing up and they kind of like, they want great things. They want to bring out the best in people. They want to share experiences, that list starts to get really smaller. So how do you attract those people and bring them into a fold where it's like, hey, there's a group of us that all are really trying to do some awesome stuff. That group's not going to be 30,000 of my followers. It's going to be very small. So I've been thinking about that with other people who are kind of in the same vein and saying, hey, how do we get these people to, how do we create something that's a little bit more unique and a little bit more special? So yeah, absolutely. Those are things that, because I want, not only, even if LinkedIn continues to do what it does, I'd love to have a smaller, tight-knit circle of people that are really trying to build each other up, really trying to, share in the same thing and not doing it for anything other than just to do the right thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is so hard because everybody says that and few people actually back it up. Exactly. Okay. So it's been a tough year, and yet I know that you have had a pretty good year, you said, in the sense of business has been good. What are your hopes as we turn the corner into 2021? And by the way, I think this podcast will actually go live somewhere probably in the last month of 2020-ish. So this is going to be good insight for people that they want to hear too. I have my own perspective on 2021, but I'm interested to hear kind of what you think, what you're hopeful for, and what you are encouraged by.
I am very optimistic that 2021 is going, and we're, 2020 was a good year, even though is in a good year is business financially, and a lot of bad things happened. I think I learned a lot. I think when we look at it, and oddly enough, as I'm talking, I remember you made a post the other day, and I said, my family's healthy, I'm healthy, things could have been a lot worse. So I really believe that. I feel like I look at, and with all things I do now, I look at things that could have been worse, like that little bit of mentality. Like there's people that are way off. They said something on the news this morning, 30 million people could lose their homes and all these things. Like you hear all these crazy stats and I'm just like, man, people are doing way worse than I am. So I think when we look at 2020, it was a there's a lot of negative that happened, but for me and my business, the business did really well, just because people needed our service more than ever. I think as we move into 2021, we're making some really cool moves that I think 2021 is going to be another year. We've had year over year growth for the past 9 years. So that's awesome. And I think as we continue to do that, as we move into 21, there's things that we need to change as a business. There's things that we've learned. There's different approaches to how you market services. We had some clients that, it's heartbreaking to see some of our really big clients that had to do layoffs. And companies look at things two ways, I think. Companies that lose clients are like, oh, I lost a revenue, and that's their mentality. They took the hit. Every time, and I'm not just saying this, every time when a notice came in from a group and they were like, oh, we're doing layoffs, oh, we're closing at the end of the year. I mean, I'll tell you, I'm getting emotional even talking about it. It hits home because I'm thinking about the people, the families, they can't pay their car, they can't buy groceries, they're going into work. We had clients that went from thousands to hundreds to one of them is like 25 people. They lost everything. And so there's a lot of that happened that you look back at and you're like, man, you feel for them, but you also realize that things could have been way worse for you. So as we move into 2021, that drives me to know that we're in a good spot. We're going to continue to grow. We need to continue to adapt. The things may look different in 2021, and how do we make sure that we're in the best position against our competitors, against the market, against changes, against new things that are going to come up that we're not even aware of yet. So and I think everyone in any business, it doesn't matter what you're doing. If you had a good year, you still have to have that mentality because no one planned for COVID. In January of this year, I spoke at an event for Unum at their national sales conference. We were talking about all kinds of cool stuff and what this is going to do and that's going to do. And a couple months later, it was like, boom, this hit everyone. And then, for the past several months, nothing's happened. So no one knew this was coming. But people adapted, people made some changes, some people lost, some people came up with new ideas and are thriving. And I think that's what we need to, we're pretty resilient as human beings. And I think that we just need to, we really need to know that I think anything that happens isn't going to be forever. I think that things are short term, even though it feels like it's the end. There's going to be light at the end of the tunnel.
No, man, I think that's so good. And I think, that again, one thing that's so important is as we think about all of the good that happens to us in the midst of all of the struggle in the world around us, obviously, and I don't want to discount the health, the family, and the integrity of that. Like that is, to me, paramount. I know to you that is, absolutely at the top of your list. But I even think professionally, I feel as though this is such an eye-awakening opportunity for me. And I hear this in you too, because when you see loss happening and you realize that you're not benefiting because they're losing, but you're benefiting all the while they're losing or they're hurting or they're struggling, it drives me to say, I know I can affect change. I know that I can encourage people that are struggling personally. From a business perspective, maybe I can lend a better hand. Maybe even in my own business, maybe I can grow an area. You started a business, you're going to maybe employ people. So I think that there's just so many ways that we can look at what's happened and say, if we are reaping benefit in a time like this, especially, let's take that as an opportunity to look out into the world and say, how else can I affect positive change? How else can I make a positive impact? So I think, again, it's I don't want to say scary, but definitely there's just so much unknown as we turn this corner. And yet at the same time, I'm excited because if this is the worst that was going to get thrown at us and we made it to this point, that means that we have the ability to endure and persevere no matter what happens next year.
Oh, yeah.
All right, buddy. So everybody at this point, if they've never heard of you, like if you guys are listening right now and you're not thinking to yourself, like, well, how do I connect to this guy? Like, I got to connect to this guy. So how do they connect to this guy?
Yeah, the easiest way and where I'm most active for sure would be on LinkedIn. So it's just search my name, Frank Mengert, Mengert. I'll pop up there, and if you're listening in here, just hit the connect button. Say you heard the message here. I'll be sure to accept it. Always send a personal note. That's just a side thing. I would say that if you're looking to connect with somebody. But yeah, that LinkedIn is my jam. I mean, I'm on, like I said, Instagram and Facebook, but most of my content and my sharing and my interaction is going to be there.
Yeah, and we'll make sure, as always, to drop that in the show notes, so you can just click that link. You can follow him there. Dude, again, I got to tell you, there are few people that I know in the sense of, we're not best friends. We're not hanging around every single day together. So there's few people that I know at a distance that I just so deeply care for because of the way they are. And I so feel that way about you. I mean, I respect who you are. I respect the way that you personally impacted me. I respect the way that you honestly approach who you are to other people, trying to help other people, to affect them positively. There's always a positive message on the shirt or, in a video. And I know that's not you just pandering to the motivational speaking crowd. Like, that's really who you are. And so again, I just appreciate you. I thank you so much for being you and for being connected. You have definitely impacted me in a lot of ways. So thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Nah, man, I love it. Thank you. I appreciate it. And it's been an honor. You asked some really awesome questions. So really, really great that we got this done, and can't wait for it to be released.
Yeah, for sure. All right, guys. Well, that wraps up another episode of the podcast. As always, make sure to connect with Frank. I've talked him up enough. You got to believe me. He's a great guy to be connected to follow, to learn more about. And if you're in the insurance business and you have not explored what Frank and EBM have to offer, you're crazy. So make sure you check him out there too. Other than that, questions, comments, feedback, anything that you can think of, feel free to fire away. I'm open to whatever it is that you got to say. But in the meantime, no matter what else you do, be you. Peace.
Thank you for listening to Authentic Conversations with Ryan James Miller. If you found value in today's episode, please subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform and share it with others. To connect with Ryan and learn more, visit ryanjamesmiller.com.